pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our January 6th Select Board meeting. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we're back and okay. Everybody can hear us okay? Everything's working, it seems? Great. So the first... Thanks, Lee. All here.
Yeah, they don't have the, there you go. I think they're going to do something there, Lee.
Okay.
Yep. You can hear.
You can hear us, but you can't see us.
Yeah. It's okay. Zoom just doesn't have the video on yet.
All right, so at least the audio's there.
Right.
The first item on the agenda is to approve our minutes from our December 16th Select Board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Heather's the motion. Lee
I'll second it.
Gustafson's the second. Anybody have any changes? Well, okay. Can you second the motion then?
I'll second the motion.
Lee Gustafson's the motion?
Lee and
Sure.
And Lee Dakin's the second.
So I have a couple of
I'm struggling
comments.
through the first thing here. It's going to be a long night.
On the bottom of page 1, under Old Business Yosemite Firehouse, it states that the bottom half of the building has been repainted, and I don't think that's correct.
No, there were clapboards that were replaced and then repainted.
And then on page 3, second paragraph, the discussion about the heat study for the public safety building, the second sentence or third says there will be 4 1,000 gallons / pound propane tanks. I don't think pound is appropriate there.
No.
Oh, okay. So under, I don't know if I'm blasting people in Zoom land, but it says there will be 4 1,000 gallons / pound propane tanks at the site. It's on the top of page 3, second paragraph, third sentence. And I don't think pound is appropriate there.
You don't need pound. It's just 1,000 gallons.
Just scratch pound on that 1,000-gallon tanks.
That was it.
Anybody else have any corrections or any concerns with the minutes?
I just have one.
What's that, Lee?
I just have one. It's on page 2, bottom of the last paragraph. Spelling. The room at the front of the building. Spelling.
What page was that?
Got any of that?
Very bottom of 2.
Bottom of page 2.
Oh, font instead of front. It's a typo. It's just a spelling typo.
Right.
You were fading in and out, Lee. So it should say front, and you have font. You just need an R. That's all.
Why is Lee up there twice like that?
Because she's talking. One of it is SAPA.
Oh, thank you. And that's the way it's always been, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Minutes are all set. Next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. If there's someone here that would like to address the
Mr. Chair,
board.
do we need to approve
On it-
the wastewater commission minutes as well?
What's that?
Do we need to approve the wastewater commissioners meeting minutes as well? Attached
I
to
guess
the...
we should. We don't have.
It's not warned for that, though. I didn't see those.
Oh, okay.
I'll put those on the next meeting. I didn't see them attached. Whoops, sorry.
Good catch. Thank you.
Yep, we'll put them on the next meeting.
All right, so citizens' comments, if there's someone here that would like to address the board regarding an issue that is not on the agenda, now would be the time to do so. If you'd like to speak, please come on up here, state your name, and have at it, Steve.
Steve Mancuso.
It's for Zoom. it won't echo in here, it's just for Zoom people.
I don't have to hold this?
Yeah, you
You gotta talk
Yeah,
into
so-
it, so Zoom people can hear you.
Otherwise, nobody else can hear you.
I would think you're used to having a microphone in front of you, Steve.
They don't let me sing all the time, you know?
You can't sing
Anyways.
here either.
I'd like to take a few minutes of your time to talk about that Jeffries barn.
Sure.
And I realize the history, and I realize that it needs some maintenance. And the last time this went around, it was a lot of zeros, and I realized it wasn't worth it because you can't use it for anything. Would you entertain a less formal approach for some maintenance and repairs?
We can't have a discussion on this. I mean, you can give us your thoughts and your feelings on this and some comments, but we can't really entertain a discussion on anything, let's just say, unless it's a warned item.
Oh,
So that's kind of where we sit until it becomes an agenda item, so that everybody knows that we're going to be having a discussion on it. Then yes, we can have a discussion about, some thoughts that you have. But at this point, it would be just,
Yeah, give us your thoughts.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Go
we-
ahead,
we
go ahead and tell
appreciate it.
them, Steve, it's going to be on the agenda for January 20th, but you can go ahead and give them a precursor to what you and I talked
Yeah.
about. Go ahead.
I mean, you could still
Yeah.
speak your mind here,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right, okay, well, all right. I had the thought that, a group of volunteers could go shore up that barn. I looked at it the other day, and it really hasn't changed since Snowcats left.
No.
Most of it is interior damage. What if, this is my thought, what if you had a crew of volunteers, would you guys throw a little lumber at it? Hurricane strap. So, I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, hopefully you can come at our January 20th meeting also, when it is on the agenda. We could discuss this a little further regarding the thoughts that you had there. I appreciate your comments, Steve, for sure. Because it is, I mean, there's been a lot of comments about that barn, especially on the websites that I've seen and stuff, about people that are interested in it and have ideas about where it should go or shouldn't go, which is why it is going to be an agenda item to bring this out so we can get some input from the community on where we'd like to go with it. Because, there has been some concerns about money spent on it and what's going on. And there's a lot of options we can entertain, but, we'll definitely look into it.
I think it's worth looking into. She's got a straighter spine than I got.
It's a big barn. It's a big barn.
I can't hear.
So, Steve, you were on my list to email after tonight's meeting to work with, to start getting some ideas about what you and I had talked about how that would look, what kind of money do we think we would be talking about and all that. So, when you have time, maybe give me a call or stop back in. Or we can do it by email, whatever you want to do.
Better in person.
Face-to-face is usually better for me too, so, yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? In your packet,
Well, Scott here, if I can just have 30 seconds of your time.
go ahead, Scott.
Some of you folks probably already know about the fall festival and in a short couple of days, about half a dozen, let me do this. There we go. About half a dozen Chester business people have stepped forward to form a informal committee with me so far. We're going to have a Zoom meeting on Friday, and some of the basic things are already underway to make it a viable festival without really needing too much from the town. And I don't want to go into too many details yet because it's all in its infancy, but I think we could wind up saving this festival and having a really wonderful time. And we're all sort of on the same page. Scott Blair is in the meeting as well as an observer, and Scott was one of the first people to contact me. And he's got a lot of great ideas and energy, and I'm very impressed with the people who've stepped forward. one of the things we're thinking about is making it feel more about our town, and possibly even adding a county fair type feel to it, over at the American Legion possibly. So I'm going to be talking to them, and the folks at Erskine's have talked about how they might want to do some presentations about sugaring and raising backyard chickens. And it's a way to show our town and our culture and a lot of the new people to our town who've come here from other places. So we could wind up with something very special here. That's all I wanted to say. We're working hard at it, and there's good people who are stepping forward, and hopefully we'll be able to make something happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott.
But rest forward, Scott, that you'll think about keeping us in the loop.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, for people that aren't aware of it, the Rotary has been responsible for helping get the Chestertown Festival off the ground for what, for 25 years it's been?
I think it's been 40-something,
45 years? It's been a long time, and yeah. And because of their, the members in the Chester Rotary, they're the dwindling numbers, and some of the key figures that were responsible for a lot of the work that went into it are no longer with them. They decided to not take on the Fall Festival. Scott McDonald has stepped forward, and it seems like he's getting a lot of citizens and people interested in helping him, and it's in its infancy right now, but hopefully this Fall Festival will go on and will continue tradition, and through the work of the people of the town, which would be really great. And we'll see how that works out over the next coming couple of weeks and stuff. Any other old business out there?
Old business or citizens' comments? Citizens' comments or old business?
Oh, no, citizens' comments, I'm sorry. I stepped ahead on it. You did get a letter in our package from answers from previous meetings regarding our speed limits. So that's in your package too, so you know what's going on with that. Any other citizens' comments? Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
Now we'll go on to old business. Julie can take us through the old business.
I can. So to go to the Academy building, the town was awarded the Historic Preservation Grant for the replacement of the west side of the roof. The original estimate we had was pretty high, so I'm working on a second cost estimate now for budget purposes, but it will officially go out to bid once I have the grant agreement. And then that will be the last of the major exterior work for that building, at which time we can start talking about the inside and renovation to the interior. On the same building, the ceiling, Ron Patch brought up a really good point, and it's definitely worth going down the road. I've contacted the insurance company to find out if there is a way that insurance would cover the repair to the ceiling. I'm meeting with an adjuster tomorrow morning. I'm not 100% sure that they'll cover. It's been a few years since the damage took place, but I'll certainly fight for it and see if we can get coverage that would save about $26,000. So we'll see. We'll see. It was a really good idea from Ron, and I didn't. Yeah. Anyways, so we're going to go down that road and see where we get. Public safety building is coming along. You can see a lot of the framework is up. Exterior walls are going in. A lot of the concrete floors are being poured. I think everything is poured at this time except for the apparatus bay. So soon they'll be starting on the inside. So it's coming along quite well. They are, again, still about a week to 10 days behind schedule, which was from the initial concrete work at the beginning. So it's still on track as far as we can.
Is that contingency fund still around the same amount?
Contingency fund is still holding between 80 and 90,000. Yep. Yep.
That's a plus.
It is a plus because a lot of the unknown work, that groundwork, is a lot of the unknown. and we're getting through that phase. So they're starting to feel a little more comfortable that we may not have to hit that contingency, which would be helpful. The gravel project, we came to an agreement with the Natural Resources Board, and a stipulated judgment order was signed. This says we should be receiving the court's decision. I got the court signature today on the stipulated judgment order. So now that gets remanded back to the local commission, who will then issue a decision on the merits. They have already heard the case on the merits, so there shouldn't be any more hearings or any of that needed. And the two major hurdles have been negotiated and so are no longer a part of the decision. So we are hoping that we will have our permit soon.
That's a huge step.
That's a huge step.
It's going to avoid any court.
I'm so happy.
Yeah. Yep. So hopefully that'll come soon.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. To Police Department, Trevor Whipple is almost finished with the review of the police policies and procedures. I met with Jim Carroll this week, actually, to begin the research on the Civilian Oversight Committee, pros, cons, all that stuff. It was a really good meeting, then had a follow-up meeting with Rick. So we'll be putting something together for a discussion probably in February. Jim had a lot of really good ideas, and gave me some cautions, but also gave me some really good ideas on how it could work. When I talked to Rick, he was in agreement with Jim's thoughts, so we'll formulate those to something more polished and present to the board sometime in February, is what I'm thinking. And we also, I'm just giving you a copy of the citizen complaint form that you guys had seen quite a while ago, as well as the trifold that has finally been updated. It took a little bit longer. We had some things we had to look into before we got there, but that is now up. It's on the website. So I know there were some citizens waiting to see that. So that is up and now available to the public. And the local government expense reimbursement grant, everything that I submitted to the Elger grant has been approved. That includes the sound system for up here and the acoustics. Wow. So they covered 100% of what I submitted. Wow. So, yay.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I was happy to see the money come through. I figured for sure they'd knock it down to a couple $1,000 or something, but they didn't. They paid the whole thing. So
That's going to be the acoustic panels for the ceiling?
The acoustic panels, what we are doing now, Amy and I have been working with them, what we're doing now is, because I have a lot of concerns about the aesthetics, and acoustic panels are great, but they can ruin a space too. So right now what they're proposing is we'll do acoustic panels on the ceiling only. They're going to go in the big spaces between the sprinklers in large groups so that they kind of blend with the wall or with the ceiling. There will be no acoustic panels brought down onto the walls. But what we are going to try, because we need window treatments anyways, is they make acoustical shades. I don't want curtains. They work better for acoustics, but I think with the space the way it is, the architecture of that woodwork is just so beautiful. I don't want to cover it up again. And they make acoustical shades, which we'll need. So we're going to try that path first. His comment to us was, anything you put in here is going to make a huge difference. Yep. So start with the ceiling, start with the shades. We'll add more over time if that's what we need to do. But he felt with the panels, the shades, and the sound system, we're going to see a pretty significant change.
Was there any ever discussion about any flooring as far as area carpets or?
No, we didn't go there. He's like, just try the acoustic, try the shades, and then you can add more if we need to over time. And we need to remember, eventually, after police department moves over to the new building, regular meetings like this are going to be back downstairs. So to design this for a room of this many people, You know,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
need to design it more for events. And so that's a whole nother thing, so,
Well, that's great news.
yeah, yeah. So the acoustic panels, are being ordered and hopefully will be in soon.
Nice.
Yeah, it took a little longer than we had planned, but I'm happy with what I think the end result will be. I feel better about not having them on the walls and then Ron Patches got a hold of me and they're about ready for the hangings of the contributions on the wall. We did finally find somebody, Wright Construction is going to come in and work with us on hanging everything, so it's hung appropriately and not damaging the sheetrock. And so we're hoping it'll all be in place by town meeting.
And that's after, I mean, first you do all the work, then you put all
Yes,
the nice stuff
yes,
on the walls and
yes.
stuff.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
oh, yes. Yeah. Yep.
That's great. That's good news all around there.
Well, hopefully we get
That was a whole bunch of good news. I mean, I don't know, it's been, what, 2 years for the gravel?
Yeah, the gravel pit's been 2.5 years, yeah. It's been a long road. Yeah.
Hopefully, if everything works out, it'll help with our numbers for this coming year also.
It will towards the end. I mean, if we get the permit, we can't be on the land
Till
till the end of April anyways. You know, when I talk to Kirby, you know, I think probably what we'll do is this summer spend some time, you know, get the logger up there, get it cleared.
Prep it all.
Get it prepped, get it ready. That might mean that maybe we, you know, Kirby felt maybe some of that stuff we could do ourselves now, not the taking down the trees, we don't log. But some of the de-stumping, you know, we may be able to rent equipment in and do and save some money there, get the road in. There's lots of stuff we can prep ourselves and then extract next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a long road, that's for sure.
Yep.
Anybody else have any old business, any old concerns?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Heather.
Have we been monitoring the speed limit on Andover Road? Or we're going to follow up and speed limit and just see if the monitoring it, and I'm just wondering if
Yeah, I will, let me check with Rick on that, Heather. I haven't talked to him recently about that. Sorry, I don't have an answer. Let me check.
Well, thank you, but can we call?
Yeah. Yes, I will check and let everybody know.
Anything else for old business? Hearing none, we'll go on to the appointment of our zoning administrator as our salvage yard ordinance enforcement officer. Jill Barger noticed that in our policy for our salvage yard ordinance that the zoning administrator was not appointed as the enforcement officer, and we need a motion to appoint the zoning administrator as the enforcement officer of the salvage yard ordinance to make it official so she could take action if it need be regarding that policy.
So I have a question, does that mean that the zoning, that ordinance need to be changed, updated, or whatever to reflect that, or just?
No, the zoning, it just says that an enforcement officer shall be appointed.
Okay,
But that's the way the ordinance reads, but the intent was that our zoning administrator would be
Right.
our enforcement officer, but we never actually made a motion appointing
oh, okay.
the ZA
I
as
thought
the
we had.
Seems
enforcement
like just a
officer.
formality, just to
Right.
make it legal.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I thought we had done that, but I guess we didn't.
Well, I couldn't find record of it. I felt like we had two, but I couldn't find record in the minutes.
this just
So,
makes sure.
let's
Right.
just do it again and we'll be
Okay.
covered.
So Heather, was that you that was making the motion? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Heather. So Heather has made the motion. Is there a second on it?
I'll second it.
Jeff seconded. Any further discussion on this? Is this one of the only ordinances that we need this type of action on? I mean, there's no other ones that we've missed as
No,
far as
no.
enforcement with the
No,
zoning?
because, It's okay. It's, yes, this is the only one that's like this. It's a standalone ordinance. Most ordinances say within them who the enforcement officer is of that ordinance.
Okay.
Or it's by statute that it's a zoning administrator. This one is not by statute, so we have to appoint. The
No,
zoning
it's
administrator.
the zoning administrator, not the person.
That way, that way it's always the position,
Yep.
not the person.
It's the position, not the person, yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The next item is regarding town meeting. We have to make a decision on whether we're going to move the town meeting date or have the voted articles done by Australian ballot. Yeah, those are the two options, I guess, that are available for us right now. I'm not sure exactly how it would work if we moved the town meeting date, or is there a date that we have to have these things done by, or?
Well, like I said in your memo, I think if you're going to move the town meeting date, you really need to have it done by early May. We set our tax rate at the beginning of July.
No.
So we need to allow time for if for some reason the budget should fail, or if for some reason come end of April, beginning of May, the situation hasn't changed and we don't have a choice but to do Australian ballot. You need to have time to set that stuff up. So if we're going to move it, we've got to be done by the beginning of May. Yeah?
Yep.
I've been thinking select board members. So if we were, my vote to Australian ballot just for the, because I'm concerned if we don't have a quorum. And I don't know how you select board members that elected after.
Heather, let me interrupt you only because your audio is coming across broken up, and I'm not sure if it's your end or if it's SAPA end, but we're hearing like every third word or something, and it's really hard to understand what you're saying. I caught part of it that it seemed like you're leaning towards Australian ballot just for this year, but your audio is really breaking up.
Oh, is it better now?
Yeah, that came better for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna go really fast.
I don't know if that's going to help, but go for it.
Leave those panels up on the walls.
Select board member, myself.
Yeah.
That is elected for a time period. We mess up.
Yeah.
And then have, we did it in May. So my feeling, do everything Australian ballot, get the tax, etc.
So Heather, it broke up a little bit, but I'm getting the gist of it. Seems like that you're for having it at the regular time and having the articles voted by Australian ballot. Is that kind of what I heard? Yes?
Correct.
Thank you, Heather.
That would be my recommendation as well.
I also have a couple of comments.
Go ahead, Lee.
I've been thinking a lot about this as well, and I know we have, or we've had restrictions on the numbers of people who could be in attendance in the town hall for meetings. We'd love to have, a full town hall like the old days. But in this period of time, I would expect that we'd still have restrictions on how many people can personally be in the town hall. So I too have thought that I don't want to change the date of the town meeting time, but rather also do anything that needs to be voted on, do it by Australian ballot.
All right, thank you, Lee. It seems like, Jeff, in your
I agree.
agreement also?
Yeah, 'cause-
It seems like the consensus of the board is to keep the town meeting on its regular date and to have the articles voted on by Australian ballot for this year only.
Right.
Now, that being said, I think we have to make sure that we do a good job of informing the public.
Well, and you still have to have your informational
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
But that can be via Zoom.
So-
I have a question on, what are the school meetings doing? Are they talking, moving, or what?
Yeah, my understanding, and I've got to confirm with Lauren, but my understanding is that they are going Australian ballot. No, they did not vote to do Australian. They had voted to do in-person voting for them. But their budget and most of their stuff is voted Australian ballot anyway. What they vote from the floor is their moderator, their clerk, their treasurer, and they typically have, 6 people at their meeting, and it's usually the 3 clerks and me. So they're keeping it as normal. Their situation is a little bit different because they don't do petitions to put a name on a ballot. They take nominations from the floor. So they're in a little bit of a different situation because Australian ballot, obviously you can't take nominations. So they had some confusing situations, and given that their attendance is very small anyway, and their big items are voted Australian ballot anyway, they're keeping it status quo.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask a question about the education that Arnie mentioned, and it's in the town manager memo. What would that look like relative to the typical discussions that we have? I mean, if we're voting all the budget and the warrant articles or whatever by Australian ballot, there would still be some presentation at some point, or would that just be in writing as part of the town?
No, we're required by law to have an informational meeting. For town meeting, we're required to have an informational meeting for any Australian ballot vote. So we would still be required to do that. I will have to look at how that is. I would imagine would have to be via Zoom. But again, that's informational. There's no voting. It'll be a little bit confusing because if people want to ask questions, they can. We'll do a PowerPoint like we normally do. We'll share it via Zoom. But I think what we need to do is make sure that we do a really good job getting the word out about the budget.
So would that include the voted articles that are listed
Yes.
at the end of the budget? So who would do that, and where would that happen?
Who would you?
Well, so we have, I don't know, 30 voted articles that are
Yeah.
various community entities. Would they be responsible for coming on by Zoom and presenting their information, or would that just be print?
They would be encouraged to be on the Zoom meeting, just like when we have our meeting here. They would be encouraged to be on to talk about their organization like they do at town meeting. Just it's not going to be voted on that night. It will be
Right.
on a ballot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I interrupted, I didn't.
No,
No,
go ahead, Heather.
Okay, it's hard, I'm sorry. I want to, if we could have everybody that put a paragraph about what they do and have it on our website or a little, something brief, not like the town annual report, but just something brief so that
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Usually it is that way, isn't it?
It is, but we don't mail the town report to everybody, so I think that's what she's saying. Have something on, like, the town website that, each of those organizations could put something on that people, we've talked about doing a postcard mailing, drawing people to the website where we then have the budget, an explanation of the budget, and all these individual organizations could have something on there as well. just so that people are voting informed, you know?
Will the town report also be on the website?
Yes, which
Okay.
it typically is.
Right.
But it's a little harder online through the PDF. It's a little harder
Sure,
to filter
yeah.
through. Whereas maybe whatever the PowerPoint is, maybe is a little more detailed this time around. And so you can just flip through that, or, you know, we'll come up with some good way. And yes, Heather, reach out to those organizations so that they have that opportunity as well to
Right.
put something out there for people to see.
Well, and maybe a link.
Huh? Yep.
This sounds great to me. I think you've done a lot of good planning and thought about it, because obviously the education of our townspeople on what they're going to be voting on, because it will be by Australian ballot now, it's really, really important. And I think having it on the website, giving people direction on where to go, and also requesting something from the people who are asking for assistance or money or part of their program to be able to give us that.
So usually
Yeah.
usually the informational is the night before.
Correct. I think we would keep, when I talked to Debbie about this, you know, we talked about if you guys do Australian ballot, keep the dates the same. They're what people know.
Right.
Let's not mess with that. All we're going to mess with is, instead of voting it from the floor on Monday night, you're going to vote it on Tuesday when you come vote for the school. I mean, that is the difference.
Pretty much it'll stay the same. It won't be
Yeah.
in person. I imagine we can have some of us here to do the presentation and
Sure.
have it filmed so people could watch it on SAPA or Zoom that night as we go through it all to make sure that that's all available. And then we just won't have the votes that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you need a motion on that, or is just a consensus of the board to go that route?
No, I think we need a motion. I would feel more comfortable with a motion, since we are changing the way we do town meeting.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we have an informational meeting on the evening of the normal town meeting and vote the budget articles and other articles by Australian ballot the following day.
Is there a second for that? I'll second that. All right, Heather's a second. Lee Gustafson is the motion. Any further discussion on this? So there's going to be a little extra work and a little prep on all this to make it all happen and get it to where it should be, for sure.
Yep.
And it's too bad. I mean, well, hopefully it'll just be for this year, because it's hard to get people involved in local government, like with the town meeting, and I would hate to see the town meeting go away with everything being voted on Australian ballot, which I've seen in towns happen before, where when they put everything on Australian ballot, the town meeting just kind of dissolved away, and I don't want to be in that position. All those in favor of the motion? Go ahead. Another comment? Oh, all those in favor of the motion? I'm sorry. Go ahead. All those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
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 Go ahead, Lee. Heather. Thanks, guys. Anybody
Heather
opposed?
texted me, they're not hearing us well either. We
Really?
are broken up.
It must be
in what they're
SAPA
hearing.
that's making
Yep,
it happen.
yep, something's going on, yeah.
I'm not trying to make it difficult for you.
Oh, that's okay. I do that on my own. I don't need help for that. Okay, so we're all set with the town meeting. And now we're going to get into our capital plan review. Over the years, it's been two different plans, a capital plan and a bond plan. Julie has put them together into one document, which I think is a better understanding of where we stand, because basically it seems like it's a summary of our debts. Bonds are our debts and our aspirations for the future on items that we need to purchase or items that we're paying for as we go along. And I know that there was some work done to get a correct ending balance from the previous year established, because we weren't exactly sure on where that was going to be. And it turns out like it's a very healthy, positive number. Julie, can you take us through the capital bond debt repayment plan?
So, like Arnie said, I've merged capital and bond into one plan. It's just easier, it's just easier for me to follow. And so this is all backed up. This includes interest and principal payments, whereas in previous years, often it was just principal. This is principal and interest on everything, and it's broken out by department. So in the 2016 bond, there were many items that were purchased, other than just the land. There was the pumps for the pool were in that bond, a tractor for the cemetery was in that bond, water sewer stuff had some stuff in that bond. So that bond, since we are breaking out for highway and we're breaking out for fire, we need to break out for everybody to have a clearer image. So you'll see some different departments than what you've normally seen contributing. Numbers are the same at the end of the day, but it is broken down more by department. When the 2016 bond is done and paid for, a lot of that drops off. It's primarily highway, police, and fire that contribute to the bond program and to the capital program, actually. This only includes anticipated purchases for 2021, which is your truck, a match for the sidewalk project, the cruiser, and I have added some money in for signage. Hopefully we'll have that signage plan approved soon, and we would want to start constructing some signs here and there. So I've just put a small amount in for that. And for a bond, I am just proposing paving this year. The truck, this year is a truck that we need to replace. It's one of our trucks that deals with salt, does one of our main roads, and so they deteriorate a fair amount faster than the ones that do back roads. Kirby and I are talking. Next year, there is a possibility that next year we could skip a truck. But this would not be the one to do that with. We've had an assessment done, and there's a fair amount of money that would need to go in to prolong it another year. And then the cruiser, same thing. This cruiser is one we need to get rid of. Again, Rick feels that there is a potential that next year we could skip a year. But again, this year would not be the cruiser. This is the cruiser that we're having issues with. We're having to put money in. Yeah, this is the cruiser we need to get out from under and replace.
And it looks like next year is the year we want to start skipping stuff?
Correct, correct. So it makes sense. This, the financing of this, I have kept with what David had been doing, which is, this is proposing we purchase in '21, do financing through Peoples and pay it off over time. However, if we end up with a large surplus, I would strongly advise that, not a surplus in the capital plan, but a surplus in the general fund, I would say let's use that money and buy some of these things outright so that we're not adding more to the capital plan. And I'll know that final number, I will know on the 20th. So we can make that decision at that time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea to pay off some of our debt or not take on new debt.
Exactly.
If we have any extra monies that come along as far as a surplus goes.
Especially looking at how these capital fund payments are increasing in the next couple of years.
Correct.
The next
It would be
couple
nice
of
to
years
not
are
add.
gonna be the tough ones.
Yeah.
It was really thankful that that number that carried through. We were worried about that number, and it turns out to be 135. But for a time, we weren't even sure what it was going to be, or if there was a number that was going to carry through. But I guess Ron, our auditor, was involved in it, and we've gone through it. And it turns out, over the years, when we put money aside to purchase things, a lot of times things maybe didn't cost quite as much as we thought they were, yet that money was still in there. So when it was finally audited and came out, that's where we're sitting, which is helpful in the long run.
Exactly.
For sure.
And I would say again, because we're going to end up with a 2020 surplus, because our budget is not going to be up as of right now, let that money ride and use it in 22 or 23 when we start to see another big jump. That would be my suggestion and proposal. I am hesitant to use the money to reduce taxes because it will be a one-time and we'll be spiking back up again in '22. And it'd be nice to just, if we can keep taxes where they're at and not increase. I do also think that, well, I can get into that, but I do also think that there will likely be there will be a highway surplus, and so taxes, the budget may actually be down this year by itself anyways. So,
Can I make a suggestion on this? I don't mean to make this table any wider than it is, but it'd be really helpful to have 2 more columns.
Two more
One that would
years?
say, total cost for whatever the budget item is or the bond item is, and then how long it's going to be paid off. Because you have that on some of these. So as an example, under 2021 paving, you have $250,000 over 5 years.
yep.
To have that for all of these
Okay.
would be very, very helpful, because the table runs out in 2030, and I don't know if that's just because you ran out of paper?
No,
or
it
that's-
actually goes longer. it goes longer.
Right, so,
It goes to 2040,
Yes.
instead of giving you all of that.
so that would be very helpful to say, all right, for this particular expense, the loader, we know the loader only goes to 2023, but the 2020 backhoe,
Sure, the fire truck, something
yeah,
like that.
exactly,
Yep.
just throw in 2 more columns would be very, very helpful.
All in all, it's, go ahead, Heather. Go ahead, Heather.
Okay, thank you. Our auditor has been suggesting that we're on for 5 years. So with some of this, is it possible to put a small amount in the reserve fund process?
Yes, and that is, come hell or high water, going to be on your January 20th agenda. He's supposed to have it final for me. And then you guys can decide that. You can decide, it would need to either be part of the budget or be an article from the floor. The reserve fund is established. You just need to decide how you're funding it in the parameters of that. So the voters need to approve that. But yes, Heather, I would say if that's a decision of the board to go ahead and start funding that, this would probably be the year to do that.
Isn't that still?
I lost you completely, Heather. I can't hear you at all.
That's been recommended.
No, he hasn't changed his mind. No, he just needs to get me the draft of the policy that he's recommending that we adopt.
That's the reserve fund policy, correct?
That's the reserve fund policy, correct. So when things like Palmer Bridge come up again, you're not borrowing money, you have it. Yes.
Well, didn't we have the policy, but it didn't have the stipulations on how we were going to fund it?
We set up a fund, the voters approved the fund, but
Yep.
they did not like the policy that we had. It wasn't real clear. It allowed for large amounts, and there were concerns there. And when I showed that to Ron, he too had some concerns about the wording in that policy. So he is supposed to be getting me a draft of what he recommends
Okay.
for you guys to see. I'm just, yeah.
I agree with you, Heather. That's a good point. And we've been working on that reserve
Yeah.
fund policy in a year where there's a potential for some surplus. I mean, it's not definite yet, but there's some potential to have a surplus to actually, put some money away in the piggy bank for future times. That was the original intention of that policy, and I think you're right. It would be a good time to start that. Any other questions or concerns on our capital bond debt repayment plan?
I have a couple.
Go for it, Jeff.
There's one item here, and I realize it's a required need for the fire department. Turnout gear. But that line item goes out and continues out for $12,500 dollars, but I think the turnout gear should be in his regular budget and not in the capital plan. That's something they need, and it's part of it should be part of their regular budget. I don't think it should be in the capital plan.
I don't have a preference either way. It doesn't matter to me. David had put, that's just a continuation of what David had put in. My understanding is the reason that he put it there was because it's a continuous purchase. I don't know if that's a reason to have it in the capital plan or not, but that's what, that was the justification given to Matt. So
So does that go out ad nauseum? I mean, does
Yeah.
it go past?
every year they replace a couple of sets.
Okay.
It just kind of keeps it going.
I
Because then by the
agree.
time they get through it all, it's time to start
Right.
over again.
I agree with Jeff on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like if that's an annual expenditure, it should be in the budget.
That's fine. Yep.
You know, there's a couple things when we actually get to the budget, there are a couple other things that I thought should be possibly handled a little differently because it's a one-time expense or, you know, a short-term expense rather than an annual expense and should be handled elseways, but I agree with Jeff.
So that amount, that 12,500, it's not something that's borrowed either, it's just spent every year.
It's just spent every year out of the capital plan. I mean, it's not gonna
gonna
change
change
your
anything.
bottom number, no.
No.
It's just gonna pull it from capital.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it just should be in.
It'll put it in
the
its
plan.
equipment line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, you're not taking the loan out on
I
it.
have a question about that.
What's that, Heather?
How long does the turnout gear last?
It depends. Depends on the firefighter and what it gets used in, how many fires he goes into, how much training he does. I mean, some of it could last,
Was this
go ahead.
is it a 5-year, is it a 10-year, or is it short-term?
It's gonna just basically depend on how active each individual firefighter is. If he's gone into 5 or 6 fires and met all the trainings, you know, it could take wear and tear, but it's an individual thing.
Yeah, but in that case, I really agree with you. Yeah. I think capital is supposed to be used, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for items that, like a truck, that we're going to use over a long period of time, so we pay it over a long period of time. So I think that
It seems like the consensus of the board is that that item should be returned back to the budget items under fire and taken out of the capital plan at this point.
I can do that.
One thing that I was wondering about it, after hearing what Jeff said about it, if it's so variable about the turnout gear and how often it gets replaced and who gets it replaced and stuff, that amount is always set. You would think that some years it would be less, some years it would be more. Maybe some years it wouldn't be any because, you know, we didn't use them up this year or we didn't have that many fires and stuff, as opposed to just saying, okay, 12,500 every year, keep on going. So maybe it would make more sense to just have it in his regular budget. If he spends the amount, he spends it. If he don't, he don't. He's saving a little money and he doesn't
Right.
have to, like, okay, we have to spend the 12,500.
That's
So,
fine.
Yep.
That's fine. The turnout gear.
Turnout gear.
Turnout gear. It's firefighting equipment, yeah.
Yep. And my other question was, I know, when are we gonna start paying for the public safety building? That's not till July, obviously after completion, but I assume we're gonna start paying some this year, this year.
We do. So that is down, it's one of the very last items right before the proposed 2021 paving.
That's in the regular, is it?
EMS building,
That's
118.
2020 EMS
Right
building. It's on the
bottom,
capital
on the
plan.
Capital plan, Jeff.
The last item in like a peachy color.
Towards the
Oh,
bottom.
okay.
So we're paying on that now. Right now, we're
Oh,
paying
okay.
interest.
Yep.
Principal hits in 2024 is where that takes a jump and we start paying interest. I mean, start paying principal, sorry.
So that was, actually relates to the other question I had on the budget, and that was there, I saw some expenses for fire and police on equipment that needed to be bought, desks, phones, whatever. Would that make more sense to go here, or to have a separate line item, not necessarily associated with the budget for those departments, because it's going to be a one-time expenditure?
It is, and I thought about that. You know, we can, I have a list of all the one-time expenses that are in this 2021 budget. We could certainly just lump them together and put it under the EMS building as a one-time thing. I mean, I wouldn't add them to your capital plan, but we could certainly,
Instead of skewing the budgets every year, because then when you look back over the years, you're always going to have to put a note in there that says, well, that was a special year.
we can
because of a
certainly do
new
that,
building.
yeah. Yeah, I can move those into one line under the EMS building department, if you want.
Can I just say that it says EMS building?
I know,
that-
it's public safety.
Yes,
I know.
EMS means Emergency Medical Services, and this building is obviously for all of our public safety services.
it is.
I would like that corrected,
Yeah,
please.
I'll change that. But yes, we could certainly do that. We could take the one-times and put them, if that's where you want to move it to.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Do you want to move it to the budget, or do you want to move it, you mentioned the capital plan.
No, I think the budget, it's fine to keep it in the budget if that's where it belongs, and I think it does. It's
Yeah.
just pulling it out, so it, like Arnie says, it doesn't skew the numbers
Sure.
if we
Yep.
look back.
I'll put it under that building building department that we've now created
Okay.
in the budget. Okay.
So, sorry, will that, so do we have an actual budget line item for the public service building? And that would be a subcategory, one for police, one for fire,
Right,
one for ambulance?
right, yeah, in your general fund budget, you have a, public service building
there's already a
is set up as a,
Right,
is set up
right,
as a
okay.
department.
So it'd just be, fall under there somewhere?
I'll just we'll put a separate line, you know, moving in expenses, whatever, I don't know, however we call it, and, yeah, we'll lump it all together there, and I can, over in the description, break down what it is.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns on the capital bond plan? You've done a great job on this, Shirley.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the effort and the work and getting the numbers where they should be. I mean, I know you did.
It's nice to have it
Yeah.
on one sheet also.
Right, and a little more understandable for what's going where.
It's, you know, it's always been a hard one to read because of all the information that's there, but it's making a little more sense than normal. And it's pretty clear. And you look down the list, you see all the items that are on there, and besides the few things that we pointed out, it's readable, it's understandable. People, if they wanted to look at it, they could see where the money is going for all these items, and it's all spelled out, it's all clear. There's no hidden funds or nothing shaking around, it's all spelled out. I appreciate the clarity and the work you put all in it, everybody in the town, as far as your help there too, with Sil and everybody else there that works
Exactly.
on
Yep.
the budget. And to have it all there, explained and clear, it makes a big difference. Any other questions, any other concerns? Hearing none, we'll go on to the general fund review. Would you like to go just through this page by page again? We could start that way, and if anybody has any questions or concerns as we go along. The first page being the income page for taxes, licenses, general fund, public safety, and the fire department. Well, before we start, does Julie want to give us just a quick overview on this, and then we'll go through it?
I can. There's not a ton that's changed since the last time you've seen it. The numbers are, I wouldn't say they're the final fourth quarter numbers, but they are through December 31st. However, there are still invoices that come in January that were for December expenses that have to get billed to December. So they may change a little bit. Your fourth quarter numbers will likely change before your final review on the 20th.
But there isn't no big item that you're expecting
There's
that's
no.
going to come in? There might be
no,
some smaller
No,
ones.
we're pretty sure that we've got it. She has expensed out the first 4 days there are 4 days on our next payroll that were in December. She's expensed that, so that's
here.
included in here. So there shouldn't be anything major, but you just never know what might come out of the blue and surprise you. But so far, this should be pretty close. And there should be no major expenses added for 2021 budget. The only number I am waiting for confirmation on is the highway surplus number. It's a good-sized number, so we want to make sure it's an accurate number before we put it in here. And so we're just kind of having some conversations around that, making sure we're comfortable. So I will definitely have that for your next meeting as well.
And the highway surplus has to go back into the highway department.
Correct.
There is no choice about that. That has to be rolled over into the department. Now,
correct.
whether we lower the budget by that amount in other areas or lower the taxes or just, absorb it is going to be up to us. But it does have to roll back into the
It has to be
highway
applied back to highway, correct. So typically, we use it to reduce the money we need to raise for highway. That's what we do, which affects your overall budget at the end of the day, so.
Could any of that be put towards the capital plan has some paving on there. Could to pay that off?
You could use it towards paving, you could use it towards the purchase of their next truck, you could use it to pay for an expense that's coming up in '21,
Okay.
increase their budget, and, yeah.
Yeah, so
You
it
could
would
do that
roll
as well.
back into Public Works, but we would fund Public Works that much less, and we could use that money, like you said, to either pay off some other capital plan or purchase of a truck or lower our debt. And then the option becomes, or you could lower taxes.
Well, I just know that historically paving has been an issue ever since I've been involved in this, because you can never come up with enough money to do what you need to do or should be doing, and you always end up getting behind on it.
Yep,
And then
So-
it costs more when you get
Right,
behind.
yeah, certainly, so.
yeah.
All right, so we'll quickly go through it page by page. The first page on income. Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I got a couple on this.
Yep.
Under taxes, land use, the actual 2020 is 162 and change, and the budget was 160. Can you
What line is that,
explain?
Lee?
What's that?
What line is it?
It's like
Oh, I
the
see it. Yeah, I see it.
third from the bottom on that first box.
Yep.
So how's that number calculated, and what is it actually?
That is a number that's calculated by the state. That is the land use figure that they pay to us. For properties that are in land use have a reduced assessed
Right.
value, and therefore their contribution to the education rate is different. So there is a formula that is used. I do not know how the state comes up with that number.
I can guess.
Probably the same department that comes up with how the education tax rate is figured out.
Okay.
But that is a number that is given to us by the state based on land use values
Okay.
in the town of Chester.
Thank you. And
It
then-
usually holds right around that 160 number.
Okay.
But it depends on properties, if properties were added to land use, if properties were
Right,
taken
come
away
out,
from land
right.
use, it just depends.
Right.
You would
So-
think that number would be the number to make up the taxes that you're not collecting because they have a lower amount.
Right.
It's a
for the land
percentage
use.
of,
Right.
yeah.
You would think that would be a simple, okay,
Yeah.
you're not collecting this amount because we put it in land use, so we're going to give it to you.
No, it's a percentage of. It's not
It's a
100.
percentage
It's
of.
not 100% of that
So they're
number.
getting a break at the states and our expense.
Correct. Correct.
So, under general government 10103, the first line, recording fees, it seemed like we were up by $10,000. Is that just because of the amount of real estate transactions that happened? Okay, so we're not necessarily going to see that.
We're not expecting that we would see that, that we will see that hold.
Okay, and then in that same block, the solar field rent was double what we anticipated. Any reason why that?
I do not know. Let me check and just make sure it's not a double entry, too.
And then we're also paying, in addition to rent, we're also paying for that solar field, for the electricity. So do those two balance out or not? And I can sorry, I can look at that later. Those are the only questions I had on page 1.
Let me get my eye on it. Some communications. Hang on. No, they don't. We paid out 68. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, wrong line. No, they don't. Let me talk to Sil and pull that spreadsheet to show. She has a spreadsheet that breaks this down. So let me just
Right.
talk to her. I'll get an answer for that.
Okay. Yeah, we've had that discussion before. I just couldn't remember the details.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lee?
Not on page 1.
Julie, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lee.
Back up to the taxes one, the fourth one down, prepay taxes, is this needed? Do we give people a break if they prepay their taxes? If not, I wouldn't think it would be needed.
That is a note to me. That's my note. One of the, so there was a time, pre-accrual accounting, where we had to, in our accounting system, if somebody prepaid, we have a lot of people that prepay taxes. They don't want to wait for the bill. They send in so much a month. And we used to have to separate that out in the accounting system into a different pot of money. Now we don't, because with accrual, you accrue your whole tax base anyways, and then it's just, what's owed is reduced. So we no longer need that line. And one of the things that you'll see when we present the final budget on the 20th is a lot of these empty lines where we see we have to have nothing budgeted or expended for 2 full years before I can reduce a line. So there are a lot of these blanks that are going to come out. And that was a note to me to ask Sil to make sure that it was a line I can remove. So you're going to see a lot of those blank lines will go away.
Yeah. So their donations, we could probably take out, because that's a blank line. We get down to.
Yep. Several.
Right. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or concerns on the first page? I had a quick one, Julie, on that interest income. It fluctuates that much? Like 2019 actual was 9,000. Actual 2020 was 2,000. We budgeted 10. Now we're budgeting 2. What is that?
The interest income, the interest income has a fair amount to do, I'm not 100% sure the understanding of it, but Sil's comment to me was we really don't need it much anymore. It's on, I need to get a better understanding of what it was about. She told me and now it's out of my head.
So is it maybe on money that we have in accounts that we're gaining interest on? Or whatever.
No, it's not on the Economic Development Fund. Maybe by the end of this meeting, it'll come back to me.
You got numbers rolling around.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I will confirm.
All right, next page. We're still under income. Any questions on that second page? On the total public safety, highway department, total public works, health and welfare, recreation total. No questions, we'll head on to the next page. Recreation totals, parks and cemeteries, other income. And then on the bottom is going to start the expenses.
So I just have a question under parks and cemeteries. We have a perpetual care line. And so how does that get funded?
When we sell lots, when a lot is sold, they also pay a fee at that time for perpetual care.
So it's just a lump sum then, and we just assume that it's going to cover the perpetual care of
Yeah.
that lot? Okay.
Yeah, that's just the way it's always been done. Yes,
Is
when you
that-
buy a lot, I think it's $250 is perpetual
Is that
care.
a reasonable way to do it? Should we look at that, or?
I don't know. I did have some questions about why we have the perpetual care here, but then when we come to the cemetery budget, it looks a little weird. So that is certainly something I can talk to Jeff about. That would be just a change in the process. But, yeah, I believe it's $250 every time we sell a lot.
Okay,
That's where that money comes from.
thank you.
Any other questions or concerns on that page? And it starts on the bottom with the expenses, the select board, town manager, next page, administration, listers. Any questions or concerns on that page?
And some things have moved around. You know, the town manager department is up because I moved the town manager expenses into the town manager. So the salary, the social security, the retirement is all moved into the town manager line, and therefore has been reduced from admin. So that's why those numbers look a little odd.
It'll take a few years for it to all start looking,
Yeah,
once the movement stops and it starts changing, stops changing. All right, the next page would be,
Sorry, I just have one comment on page 4,
Go.
maybe a typo, but under listers, where it says Nemrick Contract Services, it doesn't have a number, does that matter?
the budget should have 5,000.
No, under the, so the category number,
Oh,
whatever.
because it's a new line that I'm adding.
Oh, okay,
So it still doesn't create the new number until the budget has actually been
Okay.
approved and adopted.
okay,
Then
thank
we
you.
allocate a number. You'll see a few of those throughout the budget.
because that's a continuing contract.
This is a continuing contract. They're doing their services, service agreements a little bit different now. So this actually, I'm sorry, this is Nemrick's salary. Now, this is them, remember we hired Nemrick, instead of getting a new lister, we are contracting with them per year. This is that.
Okay.
I didn't want to lump it into salary because we don't pay Social Security and
Yep.
stuff on it. So that's what that line is.
That makes sense.
All right, we'll flip over to any, if there's no other questions on page 4, head over to 5. Expenses on taxes, planning and zoning, insurance, police. I see the SRDC has moved to the revitalization.
It just seemed to kind of make sense
Yeah,
that all
because
that
it-
was
yeah.
there, yeah.
Doesn't really seem to be part of planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Any questions on page 5? These budgets are a result of zero budgeting. I mean, you talked to all the department heads.
Yes.
And we started out on,
Yep, start it with a 0. Yep. Yep.
This is so much easier to me than the way we had it past.
Good. Excellent. That's what I wanted.
and it just gets a little more clear every year as you shift these expenses to where they make more sense. Any other questions? Any questions on page 5? Head over to 6. It's still with the police expenses, total police expenses, and then it starts the fire department and total fire department, and it starts the ambulance.
So the line item in the capital plan that would be moved here, would that just go somewhere in that first part?
For
Under
police?
Their uniform, no, I'm sorry, for fire department.
Those
Oh,
two
fire.
numbers, the capital and the bond.
Yeah, so like they have a line for uniforms, would it just go under there, or a new line that would say turnout gear?
We could do that, or we could just put it under equipment.
Yeah,
You know?
equipment is more.
Just put it under
suitable.
equipment, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or just make a note that the turnout gear is included within that
Okay.
line. Yeah.
This uniform line is for dress uniforms and
Yeah.
badges.
Right,
and
right.
that type of thing.
Yeah, I would think equipment would be a better place, a better characterization of it for sure. Any questions, any other questions or concerns on page 6? Heading over to page 7, which has our ambulance totals, and it starts communication and our town constable, and starts the public works. Cell phone savings has really helped. From 15,000, I know it's not going to be it'll be 10,005 next year, but it's quite a savings.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Who was the carrier before, AT&T?
It's AT&T, it's still AT&T, but FirstNet is AT&T's municipal.
Well,
They have a new municipal division that's come out. It's been out for a couple years, we just learned about it, so. Yep.
Any questions or concerns on page 7? You see you have the money for the gravel pit installation. So our numbers for sand and gravel might not change this year, but
They will in
they
'22.
will for the next year.
Yes, they will.
And that will come just in time, because that's when the capital plan and the budget plan actually
Correct.
go up a little bit too.
Correct.
So that hopefully there'll be some offsetting savings to help with that part of it. Page 8, you have the highway totals, and then the solid waste, health and welfare, and the rec program starts. See, the gravel's about the same, but he's asking for more sand.
saw
Part
somewhere,
of this sand is not that we're getting more sand. There was it kind of started a chain in, so the way this looks, we were getting sand one year, paying for it the next year. We had a little bit of that going on. So 70 is what's anticipated that you're going to need for sand.
Okay.
Okay. It's a more accurate number.
Any questions or concerns on page 8?
so under solid waste, we have transfer station at 35,000. I thought I saw somewhere we were going to have a discussion with Town of Springfield again.
Yeah, well, they're between town managers.
Okay,
They've got some issues going, so it is on my calendar for 2021 that once they get their new person and get settled, there's a few things I actually am planning to talk to them about, and transfer station is definitely one of those things. Yeah.
So that's still on your radar.
It is on my radar. It is my biggest pet peeve, so yes. At least have the conversation.
You just want the guy,
I just
let
want,
the new town
I just want the
manager ease
person to
in.
be there for a week before I hit him. Yeah,
Well, it's worth a discussion. I mean,
Absolutely.
A lot of the other towns don't have this fee. We do, plus we pay for it.
yeah.
right.
I mean, I know it's an expensive service, and it's important to have, but it should be fair and equitable.
That's
for all
my
the
thing.
people that use it.
Just want equity. That's all
Yeah.
I care about.
Yeah.
And if it remains the same, that's fine, as long as there's
justify
equity
it.
and other people are doing the same thing. Yep. Yep,
And they do a great job down there. They really do.
absolutely.
I mean, it's fantastic to have that service
Yes,
available.
it is. Yep, it is.
You go down there, they're always helpful, they're always willing to do what has to happen and stuff, and they'll take just about anything. Any other questions or concerns on page 8? All right, head over to 9. It's the rec program totals, and then it starts parks and cemeteries and the library, and then the town hall starts.
Rec facilities, where is that?
Rec program totals is on page 9.
Page 10, rec facilities is on page 10.
Rec facilities is on page 10, yeah.
You know, I don't know why. Rec programs should really be right before rec facilities. I don't
At
know
least
why
close.
it's there.
Yeah, why it's separated like that?
You can just move it. I'm gonna move it.
Put them together,
I'm gonna move it, yeah,
so you don't have to go looking for it.
exactly. It's kind of silly, yeah. We'll move that.
Any questions or concerns on page 9? The medical insurance, did it change because we're splitting with the highway?
Last year David budgeted, I don't know why, but he budgeted
The 30?
all of the health insurance for those 2 Parks and Cemetery employees in Parks and Cemetery. They only work in Parks and Cemetery for 6 months, then 6 months they're highway. So we've always split. So I don't know what happened last year, but I've split it back. I mean, that's how the actual.
That's how it is.
Yeah, that's how it is,
That's
exactly.
where they're working,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
reflects a better reflection of the cost for that department.
Right, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns on page 9? Library is pretty much what we discussed when they were here with the presentation. And it starts at town hall expenses, and that goes over to page 10, and the revitalization and the rec facilities, and then starts with the emergency services building.
The only question is if you want, you know, this 10,000 for the marketing efforts, you know, is that, do you want to continue that? Do you want that to come out of the general fund budget?
What money is that?
It's under revitalization, it's the marketing efforts. You know, that's new. We've never done that before. So it's just in there, but, you know, you may want to have some discussion about if you want to keep that or what your feelings are towards that.
Anybody have any comments regarding that, the marketing efforts at $10,000?
Well, I think we need to spend something on that.
I think so too, and
Yeah.
we have, and we'll do a report, probably maybe in February on this. We've had really good results from the stuff that we've done. The video is almost done, that'll be coming out, but one of the projects we've just completed, there's 2 different pools of $10,000. There is a $10,000 grant that we also got, and out of that money came one of those cool green discovery maps, you know, those old maps that you used to have. So Chester has huge advertisement on that this time around. We have really good representation in the video that there's 2 videos, one that the chamber did and then our own is almost done. The ads that we've done for Facebook ads and for Google ads, the responses, the hits that we're getting are really big. They're really big numbers. So whatever Lauren is doing is becoming very effective. And we do hear, Lauren is getting responses and Bob is getting from SRDC, has had people contact him from seeing that. It has started with a Facebook click and then went to search our website and then learned about SRDC. They're thinking about starting a business, so they could go there. So it is doing something. You know, so I hate to all of a sudden stop it. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings in the community about whether or not it's a good idea for us to spend money this way.
I was just going to say
Yep.
that I've had people come up to me and
Oh,
have
yes.
concerns that we should quiet down about Chester.
Well, and for right now, I think everything we have out there talks about visiting us smart. You know, we have rules for COVID, but I don't think that it means that what we want is to be, as soon as COVID, I'm not going to say goes away because it's not going to, but as soon as the restrictions lessen, things get under control, people are going to want to go someplace. And people are going to be anxious to do that. And if they know that Chester is here, then they're going to be ready to come. And that's what we want. And through a lot of this, I know there's mixed feelings about this as well, but, you know, a lot of our home sales have come from some of this marketing and this advertising. And it's not just people coming up and buying second homes. I know everybody thinks that that's what's happening. We've had a lot of young families have moved to town as a permanent residence.
Excellent.
And this was just the final straw to get them out of the city. And that's a good thing for our town because that affects everybody. It's not just the shops on the green.
Go ahead, Lee.
We've also gone to the beautification is not
No, go ahead, Lee. I think there's a delay.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think there's a delay.
I
Go
can't-
ahead, Lee.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, you know, in the last couple of select board meetings we've talked about the new program of our Find the Way, I can't remember what it's called, but how we're going to be having signs and, you know, directing people to different places. I think it's great. And, you know, I'm really pleased with what we've done in this town.
Agree with you, Lee. I think the town has a very positive image, it seems, in the area and outside the area for that matter, too. And I think that helps a lot with attracting people here.
Well, and I think it's an understanding that marketing and economic development is not simply, one of the comments that I hear is, well, all you're doing is bringing people to the 10 shops on the green. It's so much more than that. That is what people see, and so that's kind of your eye candy that, you know, grabs people's attention. But we don't want, the whole marketing scheme has not just been tourist. It is about so much more than that. It's about, we want people to move here, to live here, to work here. And that is a change that benefits everybody, including your tax base, all of it. It affects all of it. When they move here, they need a plumber, they need an electrician, they need an excavator to do some work. They need all of those services, and that just is a win for everybody. So it's not just about the green. You know, that is your eye candy, that is what people see, for sure. They're not driving up Corey Road and deciding that they want to move here. They're seeing the green, and that's what draws them. But
the other thing that's so important is what we've done in this town with what we have in this town is make it so that people know.
Right.
And like you like the green. Don't put down that green. How beautiful it's going to be.
exactly, absolutely. Yes, it is, Lee. That's what draws people. They see that. Yeah.
So I guess the consensus would be just to leave that in there and spend it wisely if...
Yeah. I think Heather had comments.
Go ahead, Heather. Go ahead, Heather.
I want to say I agree with Julie completely that, I mean, support, helping the whole community, business is a part of that. So it's a holistic approach. And the green drives a lot of, we're very fortunate to have such a beautiful green. So, you know, I don't mind putting another $10,000, leaving that in the budget for another year or two and seeing how it goes.
All right, so it seems like we're all pretty much in agreement. It will stay there, and we'll see how it works from there.
Well, and I think it's important to say too, this is marketing money for Chester. That was another comment that I'd heard is, well, we're just giving money to the chamber. No, we're not. This is money that we do marketing specifically for Chester.
Not Okemo, not the
Not
chamber.
Okemo, not anywhere else. This is Chester. But we do have to remember, we are part of a larger region that we draw from. That is what makes up our community as well, too. Not everybody in the world can live in Chester, Vermont. So we are part of a region, but this money and the 10,000 you guys approved earlier in the year is only Chester marketing. So make sure people understand that clearly.
Very specific to our town.
Yes, yes it is.
Any
I
other
know,
questions? Go ahead.
just a comment, this winter has been, a lot of the houses that are typically empty are full this year. They've had we got a lot more houses that have people living in them, not just second homes. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of it was COVID driven or whatever, but, I should knock on wood, but normally this time of year, I'm starting to get a lot of freeze-ups because these people leave these houses empty and they don't take care of them. All these houses aren't empty, so I haven't had one yet. So.
Has there been an increase in water and sewage uses, have you noticed?
Yeah, I think it's up a little bit, but you know, it's residential usage, so we're good.
So, yeah, it's not that big of a part of it.
Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns on page 10? I see the emergency services building. I guess that's going to be there for a while, and that's going to be developed over the years, depending on what the costs are going to be as we
Correct.
go along, because
Yep.
it's hard to, and they won't give you the heat loss, so it's tough to estimate the heat.
I'm having a heck of a time getting that, I gotta tell you. But this is where I'll put the line, Lee, for the one-time expenses for the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a guess. This is an estimate.
Yep, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope it's energy efficient, because I
would
can
hope
tell
so,
you
too.
Yes,
that those purple insulation boards they have, the 4x8s, they were having a fit one day because one of the other contractors used it to put a sheet down, and they started to put something on it and they ruined the sheet. And the guy down there was really upset because they're $110 a piece.
It's like 4 inches thick, or?
Yeah, so he was not happy.
that
But-
that building is well insulated. The layers of insulation in that building are huge.
That's
Like,
good.
I'd be amazed we have to
is
heat it at all.
Especially with the winters up here.
Yeah.
That's going to pay for itself
Yeah.
in the long run,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what those columns are going to look like once the place starts up and running and it's being used. It's really starting to take shape, though, that's for sure. You could see what it's all going to kind of look like.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like a little bit like a shanty town.
Not looking too beautiful at the moment.
I mean, it will be.
Yeah. Oh, it will be when it's done.
Well, it's not quite so congested. Basin's kind of moved out for their portion right now, but
Yeah.
All right, that's page 10. We'll head over to page 11.
The only other thing on here that I have added since that you guys don't see is under those transfers, that the transfer accounts there. I think I'm going to add in the transfer that goes to the grant fund. So if you remember in past years, you have that summary page that gets a little confusing, that summary page. If we add in the transfer to the grant fund in this budget, we don't have to have all those separate numbers. They're all within your general fund. You're raising the money.
Yep.
You just don't then have to have a sheet that breaks down, so here's my general fund, and here's my capital, and here's my grant, and now here's my new total. It's just all in one document. I mean, you'll still have your grant fund, you'll still have your sheet that shows your grant fund
Explains it,
breakdown.
but it'll be one number.
But it's going to be one number in here instead of that summary page. Because then what happens is sometimes the numbers from here don't get carried correctly to the summary page. It just adds a whole nother layer of, I'm trying to avoid layers of trying to remove this number to there and that number to there. That's where things happen that cause problems.
But is it a transfer then?
It is. When you, because the grant fund is like the capital fund, it's not part of the general fund.
Okay.
The general fund pays to the grant fund X dollars every year, whatever we've decided for projects.
Yep.
And when, in October, when revenue is in, still writes a check for 40 grand or whatever it is, and it gets
sits there.
deposited right into the grant fund. So there's no reason to not have it here It's just like with capital. She makes that transfer from one fund to the other. That's the grant fund transfer should go here. Right now, the only place you see that is on your balance sheet. You don't see it anywhere else. So it should be in here. So that's the only other thing I've added. So what you're going to find when I do that, it's just going to look like your budget is way up. But it won't be, because this budget number from 2020 is the general fund budget. It doesn't include the grant fund, because David never put that in the actual, this budget. It was on a separate sheet. Do you see what I mean?
So you're looking at the total expenditures, and that grant, that transfer is gonna be in there, which is gonna raise that number as opposed
Correct.
to being sitting off to the side by itself
Correct.
before.
It's just more transparent as to all of the transfers that take place.
Okay.
Instead of having this one over here and this one over here, this is just showing you the general fund. And it does show you the transfer to capital, but it's not showing you the transfer to the grant fund, which is usually be anywhere from 30 to
40 to
50,000.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
depending on the year.
What is it this year?
This year, I think it was 41. But, because I'm not proposing a lot of grant projects. We've got a lot to get through in '21. We got to get some grant projects off the books. So it may look a little different, but I think for going forward, it'll be much clearer. Do you remember that, that summary page I'm referring to?
With the grants, and where the
Wait,
money was gonna, I mean, the grants.
Not just the grants, that's still going to be there. The summary page to the budget that David did every year, there was a summary page. It's at the beginning of the town report. And it would break down a lump sum for general, a lump sum for highway, lump sum for capital, lump sum for grant.
I do remember, yeah.
And there was something else in there. And then that's where he showed you the final bottom line of how much had to be raised in taxes. The problem is, some of those don't show up anywhere else except
that
your
summary
balance
page.
sheet, except your balance sheet in the summary page.
Yep.
So when you're reviewing,
You're missing it.
you're missing it. And when people look at this, they're seeing a budget of 3.313 million from last year, but actually you got to add $54,000 to that, because that's what we transferred to the grant fund. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm going to propose that in the transfer line, that we actually put the grant fund in there, and then you have your whole budget in one document. You'll still have the breakdown that shows you the grants, Arnie. But the number that we have to raise will be here with the general fund budget.
Just a little more transparent, and
Right.
a little easier to understand once it's in there and it's in the right place.
Right.
As opposed, I mean, it makes sense, it should be in the budget.
Right.
I mean, if that's part of it, and that's part of the, where the money is going and what's happening to it, it should be in this is the document
Right.
that has it all in there.
And I think it'll remove that extra layer. We won't necessarily need that extra layer, that extra document. Won't really be needed.
So regarding a summary, are we still going to have that in here, and it will basically just be the total for each category? Does that make
I
sense?
can still do a summary page if you want. That,
Well, so what I'm thinking is that, you have something that just has all the total lines on it.
Yep, I can do that.
Just hide everything else.
I can still do that. It'll be directly linked to this document.
exactly.
So it'll pull direct. You're not re-entering numbers.
Right.
You're not re-entering any of that, which is never a good idea.
Yeah, because
So-
I think if somebody wants to see, okay, how much are we spending for the library, they can go and just see the library. And then if they want to get in the weeds, they can actually look at the budget.
Yep, and we can still do that. We actually have, we have something similar to that. It's that cumulative,
Right.
whatever something page that's in there. So, yeah.
And the voted articles will be shown as they're shown here in the town report?
We don't, I don't budget them.
No, I know that, but just so that people have an understanding of what 2020 was like, or what 2021 would be if we voted all these in.
I can certainly do that and just have it as a separate number, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
Why was 2019 voted articles so much less than 2020?
I was looking at that.
I don't think they're all in there. I don't think they're all in there.
Yeah.
Because it's always been around 30.
It's always really been the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and if you want, I can put them in. I mean, it is part of what we raise money on.
Well, I think we should. I mean, it's part of what we're voting on, so I
Okay.
think it should be in there instead of having people have to go back and forth between, whatever the paperwork is that's submitted.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'll have to put it in as a separate line, because those are separate articles. So when we have our article to raise taxes, it can't include those numbers, because those articles will not have been
Right, because
approved yet.
they may
They
not all
voted on-
pass or whatever.
They
the
may not
number's
all
gonna
pass.
They're voted
change.
on separately.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
show them and just have it as a separate number,
Yeah.
as a separate total. I can have taxes to be raised and with voted articles or something
Right.
like that. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, I don't want to make it more difficult, but
No,
just
it's okay.
easier for people
Well,
to.
it changes the budget by about a penny by the time
It
they
does.
add all that up there. It's a cent on the,
Right.
on our taxes.
Yep, it always does. Yep, I can do that.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the budget?
Looks pretty good.
Did a fantastic job.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank everyone that's worked on this in the office,
Yes.
Sil, yourself, and all the help that you have there.
Yes, the department heads did an amazing job. It was a lot of work this year, but
I know
I
you,
think we all feel more comfortable with where it's at and know that the numbers are real and accurate and where we need them to be.
you know,
Yeah, it was pretty scary this spring, not
Yeah.
knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
it was. We did not realize, we didn't know what taxes were going to be like when they were coming in. We didn't know what our expenses are going to be like. And, I mean, our tax collection, I guess, is still hanging in there. It's pretty much
Yep.
like it's been every year.
Yep, our tax collection is hanging in there. We've changed a little bit the way we're paying the schools, so our cash flow is better. But, we are paying them, we're just not paying them everything. We don't owe them everything until June 30th.
Yep.
So we pay what we collect each month, which is kind of helping them a little bit too. I'm sure they'd like their lump sum at the end of December 30th, but we're paying them as we collect, so it helps our cash flow a little bit.
That helps with our cash flow.
It helps
and
with our cash
TAN
flow.
notes and our
Yep.
interest that we'd have to pay
Yep.
on that.
Yep, I'm hoping we won't have to do much of a TAN this year would be good.
And I realize that
I'm sorry, that's where the interest income came from. Go ahead.
the interest, the
Yeah,
10,
that interest income line is from yep,
because we get the money, then we actually get interest on it
Correct.
sometimes.
Correct.
And now we've been using it less, so we get less.
correct.
It all came back to you.
It came back.
What I was going to say about the budget, I mean, the numbers aren't finalized quite yet, because there's still some that have to come in, but it's looking pretty good for the town, as far as our tax rate and what our budget's going to look like. We don't see at this time any increase at all, possibly maybe even a small decrease, but at least it looks like possibly not an increase, or our taxes would stay the same this year, which is really fortunate, because people are struggling.
Yes.
Knowing that their taxes are not going
Yeah,
to go up.
if we don't increase it and we still are able to pay more of our debt load down, that's a plus.
And it's not level funded, because
Right.
to me, there's no such thing.
Right.
So it's not level funded. It's, they're real numbers, they're not,
We're doing what we need to do,
correct,
and we're just doing it a little more efficiently, it seems,
correct.
spending the money a little more wisely, and it's just working out well this year. I mean, things change, and
Yeah.
it's still not set in stone, but it seems like we're definitely heading in the right direction.
Yes,
And-
there's not a whole lot that will change.
And I'd really just like to say again, thanks to everybody that was involved with this, the department heads, yourself, Sil, everyone that works in the town offices there, to get us to the point where we are now. Because it's easy to present a budget like this to the town people. And just to get the information out there now, because it is going to be all Australian ballot,
Yeah.
so I think it helps. And we'll see where we go from there. Any other questions, any other concerns on the general fund? All set. New business, agenda items for the future.
The only thing I would add to this is that those meeting minutes that we didn't approve today.
Yep, I have a note here.
Yeah, I had those in my packet.
What's that, Lee?
No, I didn't see them. I didn't look. So, so they didn't get put. I just printed out what Amy emailed me and didn't even look. It was all one document and I didn't, yeah. Nope, I didn't pay attention. That's my bad. So we'll put them on the next one.
What was the question?
Those minutes,
Oh.
the wastewater minutes.
But see, I got one here there.
Yep, you got them. I got them in mine too. I just didn't put it on the agenda.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yep.
So we will be probably talking about the reserve fund policy?
I am hoping we're going to have the reserve fund policy.
Yeah.
Been long enough. And I'm hoping that Jeffrey, my intention is that Jeffrey Barn would be on there. I think I put that on there. So hopefully we can, I'm planning to get back with Steve. He had stopped in and had presented some ideas. And Ron Patch stopped in and presented some ideas and some concerns. So my plan was to kind of research that a little bit more and bring that to you guys. There's a lot of people that do not want to see it taken down.
Right, but I will confirm that what, I'm the one that actually spotted that bulge in it 12, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And since we took all the weight out of there, it has, I don't believe it's moved at all. I
No, it
don't
hasn't.
believe it's got worse since then, so, I think we have time to work on it.
Yeah,
so.
we just need to do some repairs and,
Yeah.
kind of look at what's involved in that.
Yeah.
And like Steve had said to me when he was in my office, and Ron Patch said the same thing, it doesn't have to be that the building is restored for a use. Because that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. They would just hate to see the barn. It's kind of an iconic piece for Chester, to not have it taken down. But maybe it's just patched up, made to look a little better, get rid of a hole in the side type of thing. But it's not that it has to be completely restored for,
Yeah.
old barn dances or something. It can just, stay.
Somehow to
We
preserve it?
don't have any, we don't have any insurance on it anymore, right?
What we have is, no, we don't. What we have for insurance is debris removal for if it falls down. So that's one of the pieces we would need to talk to the insurance company about, is if we can secure the barn, then, maybe they would be willing to insure that piece again and, yeah. But there is liability on it. Yeah, there is liability insurance on it. Yeah, there's liability on it, simply because it's town property. Yeah, it's town simply because it is town property. If somebody got hurt on the property, we're covered. The structure is not. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm clear on that because I wasn't clear when Steve came in. I'm thinking,
Well, I think we should have this be an agenda item to talk under the agenda.
yeah, it is good.
That's what's going to happen with that one. I guess at our next meeting, the Chester Community Greenhouse Association is going to be joining us to give us a presentation and looking for our support.
Do they have a location, do you know?
No, that's still there, they're in the works as far as searching for locations, and they're checking out different items. They just want to get us updated on where they stand and as far as their work goes, and I would think try to get the Chester, the select board and the town behind them, helpfully,
The tough thing's gonna be finding a adequate location.
I mean, they've got a long path ahead of them, but they have got a good group of people that are working on it. And we'll see what the presentation's like, and we'll take it from there.
Yep.
I had a few questions. Brookside Cemetery. It's a smile. Maybe
No,
next year?
it is coming off my list in '21. Yes, the bridge is going up in '21.
That's it. It's gone.
I don't care. If I have to build it myself, that thing is going up in 21. No, the grant, we have to construct it in 21 because the grant, they allowed us another year because of COVID. Vermont Youth Conservation Corps will be here. Patrick reached out to me the other day, so we're going to start working on some dates. And actually, I will be back in touch with you and with Gary and Frank Kelly to kind of circle us back around. To get the project back, but that bridge and walking trail will be done in 21. And then we need to start talking about expanding the cemetery and that whole piece, but we'll get this piece done first.
Well, we did have all that work that was done regarding the expansion of the
Correct.
cemetery. We
Correct.
did a lot of the groundwork for that.
Yep.
So we have that information and we have all that with us,
Yep, we do. We just need to circle back to it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
but a lot going on.
Yes, yes, there is.
And one other question. The Planning Commission. Are we going to be getting anything from them in the near future as far as the zoning changes and what they've been working on?
I'm sure there is something coming. I think their most recent efforts are going to include bringing parts of the bylaws to us in pieces instead of the whole document. There's a lot of changes, and some that, with new members, they're circling back around to readdressing. Some of those changes are quite dramatic. So I have talked to Peter on and off. I do need to circle back with him, but part of what we talked about is bringing it in stages.
Okay.
So I think that that's probably what they're planning to do.
Just curious.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of work on their
It
end
is,
because
and
there's
then
some
they
big
had a...
substantial
Yep,
changes in it.
Yep, and then they had a changeover in board members, and so that kind of caused some re-looking at some things, and there's a lot going on there.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thanks, Julie.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anything else for future agenda items?
In
make a motion to
February,
adjourn.
we'll have in February, the policing thing will be on. I'm not sure which meeting yet, but hopefully in February.
Okay. Anything else? Next item?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.